So you guys know one of my favorite things to do with this platform is to put you on to new up and coming talent, new stories that you won't necessarily see in your comic shop or you won't necessarily hear talked about on all the different YouTube streamers and stuff. And that's exactly what we've got for you today. So here to talk about his upcoming Kickstarter campaign, or currently it's live on Kickstarter right now for Dime Store Detective. I've got comic book writer Mr. John Dexter. How are you today, sir?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be on. I see you got a lot of views, got a lot of fans. So I'd love to tell your audience about my new Kickstarter for Dime Store Detective.
Awesome, awesome. We're excited to have you here. And of course, we're going to talk about Dime Store Detective, but I wanted to get to know you a little bit as well. Um, I guess I'll start with where I typically start with everyone, right? Like, what's your story? How'd you get into comics?
Well, like any kid, I liked Spider-Man like everybody else, and had Spider-Man figures. But it was really the '90s X-Men cartoon, the Fox Kids, that really got me obsessed with comics. And I was a huge Wolverine fan. I would use my paper out money to go buy back issues, anything with Wolverine and Sabretooth in them. And that was a little after the time X-Men had really blown up with X-Men 1 when they redid it with Chris Claremont and Jim Lee. So, I mean, it was all the rage. And of course, the Fox Kids really blew it up. So that's really what started my obsession with it. So, and it'd been ever since. And then it kind of died out once the Onslaught debacle kind of came about. And then when the Ultimate, and I had a son, and he got me tuned into the Ultimates line, and I just loved Ultimate Spider-Man and Mark Millar's Ultimate X-Men, and of course the Ultimates. And then now I'm kind of image guy. And of course Kickstarter. I like to support fellow Kickstarter creators like myself. Um, and the image line, I'm big into that too right now.
Got you. So, what made you decide, like, okay, you go from a kid loving X-Men and kind of rediscovering comics with your son, but what made you decide, like, I want to try a crack at this. I want to try my hand at writing some of this stuff too.
Yeah, so I grew up wanting to be a screenwriter. When I was a kid, I my room was a production studio, so it was just ingrained in me. I don't know where I got it, so I've always been a writer. And back in about in 2009, I had wrote Space Cruise and produced that as a comic book. Didn't have the money to finish it, and then fast forward, I dropped it. Then fast forward in 2021. I had the idea for Alpha Dogs. And I just thought that really lent itself to a comic book. So Alpha Dogs is kind of like X-Men of but dogs. And it
Mhm.
might sound hokey, but it's actually a very centered, a very realistic story. So Alpha Dogs was inspired by my dog. We had this pit bull mix, and we had lived in Missouri at the time, and they had outlawed pit bulls. So we, of course, were going to get rid of our dogs. So that inspired me to create this story about this dog that's feared by the public because of his breed and size, but he actually has a huge heart. Now, in my story, Alpha Dogs, the main character Buck has the ability to heal from any wound. He's smart enough to understand human speech, and he has a heightened strength. Him and his owner are on the run from mercenaries that are trying to kidnap him to possess his powers. Um, and that came out on Kickstarter in 2021. And now we're up to issue 5 will be coming out hopefully in October. They've started working on it. It's kind of grown and grown, and then came Dime Store Detective, a real passion project of mine. I love noir. I love supernatural stories. I love, the hard boiled stories. So that was the genesis of Dime Store Detective, which is currently on Kickstarter, and we're on issue 4 right now.
Nice, nice. So, I got a chance to check out Space Cruising. Yeah, I think you sent it an email when we first booked this,
Okay.
and for the audience, Space Cruising, it's a black and white comic, and this is basically the story is humans kind of went out and found other planets and found other alien life forms and like introduced them to all the human things. And so the aliens got TV and weapons, and of course, humans bring war, and there's a truce and all these different things. And but uh the aliens and the humans sort of learn to coexist until things go awry, right? But what I loved about those opening pages is that the idea that the humans brought entertainment and the
Yeah.
aliens just ate it up. Like
Mhm.
the first guy we meet is wearing an I Shot JR shirt. It's got like a Dukes of Hazzard poster on his wall, and it's just like it's just they loved the entertainment medium. Um, where did the idea for that come from?
Oh boy. So Space Cruise, which the Kickstarter ended a couple months ago, and you can get that. You can get all my comics on the Dime Store Detective campaign as either an add-on or as a package. But yeah, so Space Cruising came about. Oh my gosh, I was a kid when I created Space Cruise. I basically took three very different toys. It was a ninja figure, a duck guy, anamorphic duck guy, and a GoBot, and I put them together and had them go on space adventures, basically with Space Cruise. And I wanted to tell a story not about the Galactic Empire, the rebellion, this huge, fight, or Star Trek discovering new worlds. Basically, three friends just out there trying to make a buck, get into these adventures, and then end up kind of bumbling and fumbling into saving the galaxy with each of their adventures. So, Space Cruising has had a lot of good reviews. Like I said, I'm shipping it as we speak. Really, about half of them shipped. So, hopefully next year I'll be able to put the second one out there. But yeah, it's been just a fun. It's a real, if you love just fun comics, no politics, just no grandstanding, just a story that's just a lot of fun, a lot of adventure, a lot of um, action, then people should definitely check out Space Cruising too.
Absolutely. Now, so you talked about like loving sort of hard-boiled stories like you're doing with Dime Store Detective. Um, and it definitely opens up that way. Like it's we open up and it's a murder investigation, like right off the rip. And we're starting to see all these different elements. Okay, like what is going on? Like how this body get here? Like, and it's just straight up detective work. But I guess I wanted to ask you because that like Dime Store Detective seems so different from Space Cruising. When you're sitting down to write a story, what do you feel like you're bringing to it? Like, is there something that um, you maybe approach each project with, or is it just here's a crazy idea, let's just see it through until it crashes?
Yeah, yeah. Right. In Alpha Dogs is totally different than Space Cruising and Dime Store Detective. I just when I tell a story, I want in my mind, I want to tell a story that you're not going to pick up on the shelf, something that's totally different. So I'm not going to repeat myself because, I want to write the best story of this genre, of the most original story I can, and just kind of break the rules, I guess, to a certain extent, but just tell the most original but entertaining story I can. So I probably won't do another noir detective book for a while because until I think I can top Dime Store Detective. So that's kind of how I approach it. It's kind of just, stream of consciousness, I suppose. Dime Store Detective was written. So Dime Store Detective originally was written as um, back in the Afghanistan war when they were looking for Osama bin Laden. I had heard about these. They were talking about these caves. They couldn't find bin Laden because there were these caves in Afghanistan that some people have never even been explored.
Mm.
So I thought, well, wouldn't it be amazing if I had the story about these soldiers, U.S. soldiers that are trying to find Osama bin Laden. They stumble upon this cave, and inside this cave is this evil entity that's been trapped for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and they inadvertently release it. Well, I wasn't all that. I'd written it. Then it goes back to L.A. It's in the present, and the detective's friend is the one who got possessed, and he becomes a serial killer. And it wasn't enough. There wasn't enough meat on the bone for me. And so it just sat for about 5 years. And then I had heard the story about the Dixie Mafia, which is a true gang. So if you ever heard of the movie Walking Tall
Mhm.
with The Rock, well, it was a true story. Of course, with the rock version, it's very different than the real story. But
Right.
so the Dixie Mafia, if you think of the New York Mafia, but of the kind of the dirty South, Alabama, and Tennessee, this story, a Dexter Detective, takes place in Georgia, North Georgia, in Athens. And so the Dixie Mafia were hitmen, they were drug runners, uh, and they really had reached their height in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the 90s kind of trickled out, but supposedly they're still around. And I just thought, why hasn't nobody written a story about the Dixie? They were just so fascinating. We have so many mob movies of New York, but we don't know anything about the Dixie Mafia. And I just thought, God, it's so fascinating. So what I came up with was in Dexter Detective, we flash back between the present and 1981. And whenever in the present, the color it's in color. When the detective Donald Mackinder is on the hunt for a serial killer, and then whenever we flash back to when the detective is 8 years old, raised by moonshiners, embroiled in this turf war with the Dixie Mafia, it's in black and white, and that's kind of a twofold to help. You don't, as soon as you start confusing the reader, you've lost them.
Right.
So it's very easy. You can, easily distinguish the past and the present by the black and white. Plus, the black and white's got that noir feel that I'm kind of going for.
Hmm.
Well, in the story of Dexter Detective, back in 81, the detective's father and uncle have to find a new place to hide their still. They've been attacked by this gang. The Dixie Mafia is trying to run this family out of business, out of moonshining. They're 4 generations of moonshining in North Georgia, very proud people. They're not going to just, go away. They're going to fight. And when the detective's uncle and father go looking in the Appalachian Mountains for a new place to hide their still, they stumble upon this hidden cave. And in this cave is this antechamber where the Cherokee have made these hieroglyphic warnings. Well, they're guys in their 20s, they ain't going to listen. They keep going and they go into this antechamber and inadvertently release this malevolent being that's been trapped by the Cherokees for hundreds of years. And I don't want to give away too much of the story, but as you can tell, all hell breaks loose.
Right.
And in the present, the detective discovers that malevolent, this evil entity has returned. So we've got a lot of mystery here. We've got a lot of, if you like the hard-boiled stories, if you like noir, then you'd really love Dexter Detective. Every campaign gains more and more backers. At this present structure, we're getting close to getting funded. We still have a little ways to go, but we're tracking better. Every campaign tracks better than the last campaign, so that's always positive, especially how Kickstarter's kind of been inundated with so many projects. The fact that my projects, even though I'm still not known very well, that every project gains more and more backers is a testament that the stories are working.
Yeah, for sure. So Dime Store Detective, this campaign is actually for issue 4. Of course, you can get 1, 2, 3, and 4 in all of your comics on this campaign as rewards or even as add-ons. But I guess my question, right, with indie creators, we're typically looking at things one issue at a time. Like if this goes well, we'll do this. We'll pick it up again in a few months and keep it rolling. But with Dime Store Detective, like how long do you see your story going on? Is it something that you feel like you've got plans for like years down the road, or do you see like a definitive endpoint for it?
Yeah, so this is 8 issues in all. So issue 4 is the halfway point. I've got every story. I love to leave on. I love the cliffhanger. So every story's got a really great cliffhanger. Issue 1, it seems that it's a detective story. Then all the end, there's a supernatural element to it. So yeah, it's an 8 issue series in all. And I'm hoping after issue 4 that issue 5 is actually in the sketched. They're sketching issue 5 right now. So my goal is to really pump out Dexter Detective, being that it's only 8 issues, and get it out there. So it'll kind of be. I'd probably bit off more than I could chew with doing 3 titles at the same time, but it's my passion. I'm sure as you and a lot of other creators can attest. You can't help yourself. You really just want to get your stories out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's part of being creative is that like it's just the joy of doing it. And after a while, it's like, yeah, I want to make stuff and that's cool. But if people don't ingest this, if I don't sell this, then I won't be able to make the next thing. And
Yeah.
really, all I really want to do is make the next thing. So we got to do
Yeah.
this Kickstarter. We got to do whatever we can to keep the funding going and keep the ball rolling. So I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, yeah, and I implore anybody, you don't have to take my word for it. On my social media, I'm at Alpha Dogs on X. I'm on John Dexter or Alpha Dogs on Facebook, and at Alpha underscore Dogs underscore Comic on Instagram. I posted a bunch of reviews from comic book reviewers, not my friends.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of glowing reviews. If you check out the Kickstarter, type in Dexter Detective or type in John Dexter. There's got some great covers, and the trailer is amazing. I always say if the trailer doesn't hook you, then I'm kind of out of ideas because the trailers are great.
Yeah. No, this looks cool. I don't want to press play right now because I know the audio is not going to work.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's fine.
but I will try to put it in here on the edit just so people can see it. Um, but yeah, no, what I love about this series, or one thing I love about it, is the covers are all really good.
Hmm.
I like them a lot. So what I wanted to ask was just you mentioned earlier, right? Like, you want to tell stories, that you're having fun with the stories. It's not necessarily like a bunch of politics or anything like that. How would you define a good story, or what would you say like is your goal in storytelling?
Yeah, so for me, a good story, and not to say anything bad about people that do these type of stories. Like, I don't want to watch a story about somebody that's dying of cancer or
Mm,
somebody's. To me, stories are escapism. So for me, the ideal story is something that's original and something that's entertaining.
mm,
You go there to kind of break away and, as I said, escape reality. And I love stories that are something that you've never seen before, where it's you don't see the setup. And as a writer, I don't watch a lot of movies anymore because the structure. Your act one. Okay, I know in 15 minutes there's going to be a change of pace. I know in 8 minutes there's going to be. So I like Quentin Tarantino a lot because you can't see a structure to his movies. There is, but he's just so good that you don't see it. So my hope when I write a story is, you're not going to be two steps ahead of me. Because once they figure that out, then you've lost them. So, and again, I'm not into love stories because as a backdrop, and this actually has a love story in it,
mm,
but I just, to me, if you're going to tell a story, I want to sit there and be entertained, and I don't want to be talked down to. I don't want to be preached to. You're not going to change my mind about politics by a movie. Um, I like I said, movies are escapism, and
mm.
I think people tend to forget that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we all bring a bit of ourselves to whatever creative work we're doing, right? And so,
Yeah.
um, whatever is important to us is going to show, right?
Hmm.
And so, I think for some people, that does end up. The other part of that is just that our political landscape is just so extreme on both sides. So it's like
Yeah.
things that we didn't necessarily consider politics before now feel very political because it's like those are the things that we talk about even in politics. Um, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that's why the X Men was so great because
Mm,
Claremont said it was Malcolm X, Martin Luther um, King Jr.
mm,
Well, you can watch it and not get that, or you can watch it and get it. So I like movies that definitely have a message, you got to have a theme, but are more subversive to where you're not knocking the people's head over with it. You can watch it and be entertained and say, oh, yeah, that's, got a deeper meaning to it. Not a story that, like I said, is just conking you overhead with what they believe. Because let's face it, in my opinion, you've got a big part of people that are Republican, a big part of people that are Democrat, then a big part of people that don't care about politics. Well, if you do whatever your political belief is, well, you've lost, a big part of your audience. That's why I don't get into politics when I write, or, because it's none of my business. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's how I approach it. That's for me, because like I said, I would say about 40% are one party, 40% is another party, and 20 to 30 don't care about politics. So
Mhm.
you've just lost a big chunk of your readership by getting what you believe out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Um, so with that, right, you talked about like just, wanting to be or feel subverted in entertainment. You talked about Quentin Tarantino. One of the questions I was going to ask you was just who are some of your creative inspirations? People that you look at and you're like, okay, if I can do half as good as this person, then I'm doing well.
Yeah, well, right now I would say the best writers currently going for me is Brian K. Vaughan and Ed Brubaker. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you like Ed Brubaker, you're going to love Dime Store Detective.
Hmm.
It's that same hard-boiled noir. And I will, and even though you're not really supposed to do this, I would say, you know, Dime Store Detective is very much kind of like True Detective meets Stephen King's It. You kind of,
Hmm.
it's kind of like that. But yeah, so Ed Brubaker's, I love his work, and Brian K. Vaughan. I just recently finished the whole omnibus of Saga, and again,
Hmm.
once again, he just knocked it out of the park. And it's cool because he came out with a new issue of Saga that I didn't even know about until I
Hmm.
was at my LCS a couple weeks ago. So those two are my big. I mean, if I could even come close to them, that would be incredible.
Yeah, for sure. No, the premise of Dime Store Detective, I was gonna say, sort of reminds me a bit of Reckless, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
Brubaker and Phillips, right? I think it's the second volume is Friend of the Devil, where this
yeah.
Ethan is investigating the death of this Hollywood actress who
Hmm.
apparently was sacrificed as part of a satanic cult.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just like, it's the hard boiled theme for sure, like the investigation, like the what I love about the Reckless series is it's a detective story. You
Hmm.
know that we're gonna find the killer by the end of the book. But like every time you think you know who the killer is or you know where the story is going, it goes somewhere else. Like the way I describe it is like I don't know. It's like a sophisticated version of like watching something like Matlock or like Dragnet or something like that. Like
It's more
that
brutal. Yeah.
yeah, like the Saturday morning stuff that you'd watch like with your auntie or your grandma. It's
Hmm.
like they you've got your hero, you got your detective guy that's gonna captivate you for an hour. But like with something like Matlock, it's like you know who the killer is from the opening frames, right?
Yeah.
But with this, it's like you don't know. You know we're gonna find out, and now you're just enjoying the ride, so it's fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love Reckless. I keep starting Criminal, and I somehow always get sidetracked. And they're making that into a TV series now, which is really exciting. So I've got
Mhm.
to get caught up on my Criminals. But yeah, I've read all of Reckless. I think there's 5 volumes if I remember correctly, and
Mhm.
supposedly there's more coming. But yeah, it was really sad how it ended, though. I don't want to give away spoilers, but
Yeah,
yeah, it was definitely bittersweet. So
yeah,
terrific
for,
series.
for
And
sure.
a
Well,
lot of people that have never read one of his that's actually my favorite, that wasn't out that long ago. And like, again, not to repeat myself, if you like this graphic novel, you'll love Dexter Detective. Um, and now I'm blanking on this. It's a, oh my goodness, what, no, not noir. It's, it takes place in 1940s Hollywood during the Blacklist. It's about Hollywood writer. These two Hollywood writers. There's a murder of this girl who's going to be a big Hollywood actress.
is this Night Fever?
Is it?
The one that just
I think it's
oh
Fatale.
Fatal.
Fatale. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, if you like Fatale, you would definitely love Dime Store Detective, but that is actually my favorite Brubaker. That was a great, unexpected original comic, graphic novel.
Nice, nice. I have to check that one out. I
Yeah,
bought a bunch of Brubaker stuff in a Humble bundle a while back.
nice.
Um, but at the time I didn't have a way to like read it anywhere except my computer and like
Yeah,
I sit at my desk long enough. So,
yeah.
but
I
I
like both
found
of
a
those comics.
there's an app where it's like if you have like a digital comic file, you can actually load it onto your iPad. So I need to
Oh,
do that
nice.
so I can read more of those things. So I've got Criminal, I've got all the Reckless books, and that's about it on my Brubaker collection. But there's so
Now,
much
what do
more
you like
out
better?
there.
Which one did you like better, Criminal, or do you like them all both the same?
So I haven't gotten fully through Criminal yet. What I
Yeah,
like about Reckless is I could just grab one of those volumes and it's one and done, right? And
exactly. Yeah,
to be
yeah,
fair, Criminal's the same way. It's just collected
yeah.
as, the big books. But when it was first coming out, like it was, 6, 7 issues at a time and, you could be done with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so uh Criminal, my former co-host on this show actually passed away, but Criminal was one of his favorite
Sorry, to hear that.
books. Oh, it's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
But
I got to give you credit. Like I said, I keep on starting it and something comes up, but yeah, I definitely need to get my hands on that because in some ways considered his magnum opus. I guess you could say is
yeah,
Criminal, but like I said, boy, Fatale was Femme Fatale was awesome.
yeah,
So
for sure. I guess another hallmark of Brubaker work, right, is just the consistency, him working with Sean
yeah,
Phillips. Like that is
oh
the
yeah,
team. Being an indie comics creator, I'm always curious to know like how you find your team and how do you know like they're the one, you know?
yeah. Well, it's funny because I tell everybody, I don't believe in luck. When it comes to, I believe it's preparation meets opportunity, but I got lucky. I got really lucky with my artist team. Stone Tower Studio. I did a cold call on Facebook, writer looking for artists. They answered the call. They were like so much better than everybody else. And they've been my artists ever since. They've done
Mm,
all my comics. Now, granted, Space Cruiser was not the interior art was not done by them because, as I said, Space Cruising was done in it was from 2009 to 2012. The
mm,
art was done with that, and then, as I said, I ran out of money before I finished it. They did do the last two pages,
mhm.
but yeah, they're just phenomenal. Fernando Malik, he does the artwork for Alpha Dogs, Alfredo, Richard Marr. He does the artwork for Dexter Detective.
Got you. Nice, nice. Um, and what I like, I'm looking through issue 1 of Dime Store Detective now,
Yeah,
and what I like about this, and I don't want to like share because I don't want to spoil it for people, but I really like the colors, right? But I also like that it's almost like I guess mixed media, right? Like those flashback pages, right, that are in black and white. Like it's, there there was an old show that my mom used to watch on Lifetime, and it was like it was called Any Day Now, and it was like this black lady and this white lady grew up like in the segregated South, but like remained best friends like through adulthood. And so, but the way the story is told on the show, it's like you get them as adults in present day, and that's in color, but then they'll flash back to their childhood, and their childhood flashbacks are in black and white.
oh,
Anyway,
that's cool. That's cool. I never heard of that show, but that sounds really cool. I should check that out.
I probably wouldn't have heard of it if my mom didn't watch Lifetime.
Yeah, that must have been those that's been lost through time because I've never heard of that show. And I used to watch Nick at Night when I was a
Oh
kid.
yeah.
So I'm surprised I never heard of that. But yeah, and the cool thing about Dumpster Detectives is I did something that I like I said, I tried to make a very original stories, and Dexter Detective has a prologue.
Mhm.
And I don't know of any comic off the top of my head that has a prologue. And I think I did a good job with it. My wife helped me edit it because I just kind of did it was very long, but yeah, I think it's great. A prologue should be, I think the hallmarks of a great prologue is foreshadowing, and just really kind of giving some people some exposition, but not them knowing that they're getting exposition, because you don't want to drag the story down. So, and then when we turn to the next page, one side's in black and white at the
Hmm.
same location, and one side's in color at the same location, because I wanted to show, so we have one side, these guys are uh, drag racing in 1981, and the next side they're mud bogging, because I wanted to show that the more things change, yet they still stay the same. And
Right.
in the last panel, we have the body being buried, and then the next frame is the woman hanging in the tree, the
Right.
third victim of the serial killer. So I thought it was kind of cool. I thought it was unique, and hopefully people will enjoy it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I really do like the way you illustrate the passage of time. And no, you're right. So this prologue he's talking about is it's a letter from a father to a son. Um, and it's just basically giving the son his marching orders, like, hey, we're gonna do what's right. We're gonna stop people that are doing what's wrong. Um, but the way that letter is put, it's like, okay, what's about to happen? Like what what
Yeah, yeah. Really the heart of Dime Store Detective is the relationship between this father and his son.
Mm,
So this father has been accused of all these murders. He's been vilified by the county. They're moonshiners, so they're looked on as bad people. But the son never gives up faith in his father. Even from we see his relationship when he's 8 years old with his dad, um, going out running the cops as they're moonshining, and then in the present with him being a detective, the son never gives up that faith in his father. And even though he's been vilified by the town, he still knows in his heart his dad is a great guy. So I think people will really enjoy that heart of the story.
mm, for sure. So Dime Store Detective, like I said, we're on issue 4. Um, what can you tell us about I mean, we don't want to spoil the other 3 issues, but what can you tell us about issue 4 that might want get people to want to catch up and get on board for this one?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, if you haven't read the other ones, I would. You can get the digital version of all four for only $19. Two of the issues are 26 pages, so you got a lot of bang for your buck. I think you can get all 4 issues for something like 30, like $40, something like that. But yeah, so in Dime Store Detective issue 4, the gangland war really takes off, and the events of issue 3 kind of spill over with the Dixie Mafia taking revenge on the two brothers.
Mm,
In issue 4, and you can see in the preview pages, they try to run Detective Mackinder's dad off the road. This is back in 1981 when Mackinder's only 8 years old, and the father doesn't take too kindly to them trying to run him off the road with the son in the car. And then we go to the present when the detective is he knows there's a connection here between these murders of the serial killer and his family's murders of when they fought the Dixie Mafia, because the serial killer left his latest victim's body displayed over the burial grounds. The detective's father and uncle buried multiple bodies 40 years ago. Plus, the victim has a bottle of moonshine that the Mackinder brothers used to make back in 81 shoved down her throat.
mm,
So this murderer serial killer wants to make it very clear that he is trying to get Detective Mackinder's attention in the present time.
mm,
And we know, because of the end of issue 1, that this malevolent entity, this evil entity, may or may not have returned, because there is definitely some possessions going on. And, we've got in issues, we've got kind of this Epstein Island cult vibe going on. So it's, like I said, it's a lot of fun. It's, if you like mystery, if you like thrillers, if you love the supernatural, if you like hard boiled stories, you're going to really love Dime Store Detective.
Nice, nice. So, Dime Store Detective issues one, two, three, and four are all available on Kickstarter right now. Like he said, if you wanted to grab just the digital versions to catch up, that'll cost you about $20. If you wanted to grab them physically, $45 will get you all four issues of Dime Store Detective sent to your door. Now, if you'd wanted to grab all of the comics that John has made, so get the mega bundle with Dime Store Detective 1 through 4. You can get Alpha Dogs and Space Cruise. You can get all of these issues for just $90. So I think that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's the trade. That's the trade of Alpha Dog.
Alpha.
So that's issues 1 through 4, plus the bonus story that you can only get in the graphic novel. So it's a lot. It's like 114 pages for the graphic novel. Then you've got issue 1 of Space Cruise, and then, as I said, Dexter Detective. 2 issues are like 26 pages. The other 2 are 24 pages. So
Mhm.
you're getting a lot of comic book for that price. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. And again, don't take my word for it. Go on YouTube, right? Alpha Dogs or Dexter Detective reviews. There's plenty of them out there. There's plenty on my social media. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, John, this has been awesome. I appreciate you taking the time. Now, for those, like I said, I'm going to leave the link to the Kickstarter in the description of this video, as well as the show notes of the podcast. But for people who want to follow you and keep in touch after this campaign, where can they do that?
So the easiest is probably on X, at Real Alpha Dogs. On my profile, I have the trailer. I have the link to the Kickstarter. And on Instagram, it's at Alpha underscore dogs underscore comic, because I made all these handles with Alpha Dogs because at the time I didn't know if I'd go past issue 1. You never
Right.
know what's going to happen on a Kickstarter. And so everything's been Alpha Dogs. Little did I know this will be my 10th campaign. And there's actually some big news coming up. I can't really talk about it yet, but
Mhm.
I'm hoping this week there'll be an announcement, or next week, which should really, hopefully, really boost my career. But we'll see. And but yeah, those are the easiest way. I'm on Facebook, but it's Facebook. They always bury me.
Yeah.
Probably it's you can't ever find me on Facebook. Alpha Dogs is on Facebook too, but good luck trying to find me. So that's why I said X and Insta are the easiest ways to find me. And of course, on Kickstarter, type in John Dexter or type in Dexter Detective, and you'll go right to my campaigns.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, John, again, thank you so much for your time. I'll make sure I'll leave links to both the Kickstarter and your social platforms in the comments or the show notes down below. And yeah, good luck on this campaign. It's already like pretty close to funded by the time you guys see this. Maybe we're at 100% already. But I have no doubt that we're going to reach this $2,500 goal to get the fourth issue of Dime Store Detective in your hands. But you got to make that happen. So go ahead to Kickstarter now. And you can, as a matter of fact, let's go ahead. Let's just call it. We'll go to comicsaredope.com/detective. And that link will take you straight to John's Kickstarter for Dime Store Detective issues 1 through 4. So you can go ahead and back that campaign and get the book in your hands. And like I said, you can follow John on social media for more. But John, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Dave, thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure to meet you. And we'll have to do it again sometime. I got Alpha Dogs coming out at the end of the year. So, yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, we'll definitely have to come. We'll do this again for Alpha Dogs for sure. Um, well, guys, I don't know what you're doing after listening to this interview. Hopefully, you're going out and backing Dime Store Detective. But then after that, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.